To Kashmir, why are security forces now not allowing Pakistani militants to get what had become heroic fanfare on funerals? The J&K government's recent decision to quietly dispose of the bodies of Pakistani terrorists instead of burying them in local graveyards has also triggered clashes in some parts of the valley. Now, my colleague Nazir Masoodi has this new story after a previous one where he reflected how a terrorist funeral had more fanfare than the recent funeral of the J&K chief minister.
Protesters clashed with the police in Bandipur in Kashmir, demanding bodies of 3 Lashkar terrorists killed in a 12-hour gun battle. The security forces have now stepped in and put an end to the fanfare and heroes' funerals given to terrorists in the past. Instead, these 3 terrorists were buried at an unknown location near the line of control, 100 kilometers away from the village, away from anyone's gaze.
Yes, they are demanding, but since how logical and how appropriate is their demand, we will try to persuade them, we will try to advise them that we have followed all the provisions of the law, and the bodies, since nobody was the claimant, as per the rule, the police is supposed to dispose of the dead bodies.
Sources say the government has decided not to allow any Pakistani terrorists to be buried in local graveyards. The decision is aimed at controlling violence amongst crowds of thousands who've begun to gather and attend these funerals. The new rule won't be applied to local militants whose bodies will continue to be handed over to their families. But given the sensitivities involved, local political parties are hoping the decision won't provoke violent reactions.
I just hope that whatever the policy is, it takes into account both the advantages as well as the disadvantages on a very fragile peace that we have prevalent, relative peace that we have prevalent in the valley.
Thousands of Pakistanis and terrorists from several other countries have been killed in Kashmir over the last 20 years. All this time they were buried in local graveyards, which are full of epitaphs to Pakistani militants, until the police began the practice of burying them quietly a few months ago.
Security forces may kill a militant, but his identity and ideology is rooted in the ground after his death. There are 500 graveyards in Kashmir where militants are buried, and every year number of epitaphs is growing. Sources say the government decision to disallow burial sites for Pakistani militants is to fight militancy beyond killings. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.